Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you how you can transform an existing Hogwarts house robe into any of the other houses. Today I'll be transforming a Gryffindor robe into Slytherin, Ravenclaw, and Hufflepuff. I'll also show you how to make a simple matching tie to go with it. So let's get started. Starting off with the house crest, you're going to need dark t-shirt transfer paper and a printout of the house crest of your choice. So what I did was search for Hogwarts house crest images and pick the one that I liked best. Then I put it into a Word document. You can also do this using Photoshop. I covered up any crest that I didn't want and resized it. Next, I put the transfer paper into my printer and color printed the image. You may want to do a test print of the image on plain paper just to see if you've made it the correct size. You're also going to need a black bandana, scissors, an iron, towel, a flat surface to work on, fabric Mod Podge, and a paintbrush. You're also going to need a hot glue gun or needle and thread. First, carefully cut out the house crest, leaving a sort of triangle shape to one end. At this end, carefully peel off the transfer film from the backing paper. You just want to lift a small portion of it, then continue to cut out the crest. Once you have the crest cut out, place a towel onto a flat surface and place the bandana on top. You can now peel off the crest from the backing paper completely. Now, following your transfer paper's instructions, heat up your iron to the correct setting. Iron out any wrinkles on the bandana, then place the crest image on top. Cover with parchment paper, then, pressing firmly, iron over the entire crest, making sure to go all around the edges. Let the parchment cool for a minute, then carefully peel it off and lift up the bandana. Next, in order to make the crest have a glossy finish and more vibrant color, we're going to paint over it with some fabric Mod Podge. Simply paint a thin, even layer over the entire crust. Let it dry completely for a few minutes, then cut out the crust shape, making sure to leave a border around it. You don't have to cut around every detail on the crust, a simple border will do just fine. Now for the hood of the robe, you're obviously going to need a Hogwarts robe, either bought or made. First, measure out the dimensions of the hood. For my store-bought robe, I needed a piece of folded fabric measuring 22 inches wide and 29 inches long. So for Slytherin, I went with a matte emerald green color fabric. For Ravenclaw, I chose a royal blue charmeuse fabric. For Hufflepuff, I chose a golden charmeuse fabric. And if you're making Gryffindor, you will need a scarlet color fabric. Now make sure your fabric is folded in half with the ends facing right. These are the measurements I used to make the hood and tie components. So go ahead and with a fabric pencil and ruler, measure out the hood onto the left side of the fabric. On the right side, measure out a tie shape. You want to leave a seam allowance around the tie, so be sure to measure it a few inches larger than you want it to be. It's easier to do this using a tie you already own as reference, but if you don't have one, that's okay. The way I measured out my tie is a bit odd. I first measured an 8-inch line horizontally towards the bottom of the fabric, then made it into a triangle shape with two 5-inch sides going down. Then from that point, I made a vertical line measuring 19.2 inches. At the top, I measured a 6.5-inch line using the vertical line as the middle of the measurement. Finally, I measured two 16.1-inch lines connecting the top and 8-inch measurements. The lines should be on a slight angle going upwards. I know that's a lot of measuring, but it works. Then measure a piece for the knot of the tie. You don't have to worry about the loop portion that goes around your neck because we're going to do something different. So for the knot, I made a 3-inch by 6-inch rectangle, then measured a 4-inch by 4-inch square to use for the tipping of the tie. So once everything is measured out, you can then cut out the pieces with some fabric scissors. Use some binder clips or sewing pins to hold the fabric together while you cut out the hood. You should have a piece that looks like this. Now for the tie pieces, you only need to use one side of the fabric. So unfold the fabric and cut out the pieces. Now turn the hood of the robe inside out. Then fit the hood fabric piece onto the hood of the robe and measure the area where the robe meets the end of the fabric. Next, sew up the bottom of the fabric and 6.2 inches up on the diagonal side using needle and thread or a sewing machine. Also, make sure the side of the fabric you want to be showing is on the inside when you sew the fabric together. As you can see, I chose to use the matte dull side. Then flip the hood inside out and fit the hood of the robe into the new hood. Now you can attach it onto the robe using hot glue or by sewing it on. Be sure to fold over the fabric a little when attaching it so the edges look clean. Once you've glued on a majority of the hood around the rim, you can then turn the hood right side out and finish the edge where the hood meets the robe. Find the center seam of the robe's hood and align it with the center seam of the new one. Then continue attaching the hood onto the robe. You will need to trim off a few bits here and there so the fabric attaches correctly and doesn't bunch up or look odd. The finishing touch to your new house robe is to simply place the new house crest directly on top of the old one. Attach either by sewing along the border of the crest using black thread or by using hot glue. Now you have your very own brand new Hogwarts house robe. Lastly, to make the matching house tie, you're going to need the following things. For Hufflepuff, you will need the golden charmeuse tie pieces of fabric from earlier, a hot glue gun, a thin paintbrush, a fabric pencil, thick elastic, scissors, a ruler, needle and thread, and dimensional fabric paint in royal blue and silver. For Ravenclaw, you'll need royal blue fabric instead, and you'll only need silver dimensional fabric paint. For Slytherin, you'll need green fabric instead and only need silver dimensional fabric paint. And for Gryffindor, you'll need scarlet fabric instead and need gold dimensional fabric paint. First, you need to recreate the diagonal stripe pattern that the house ties have. I actually measured the spacing between the stripes on the Gryffindor tie and got these measurements. So go ahead and mark out the stripes on the fabric using a ruler and fabric pencil. Of course, if you already have a house tie, you can just trace the lines onto the fabric. Once you have all the stripes marked out, you can then paint over them with the fabric paint. Using a fine paintbrush, spread out the paint. Keep in mind the parallel lines are thicker than the single lines. Then repeat the same steps for the rectangle fabric piece. For the Hufflepuff tie, the stripe color is a mix of the blue and silver fabric paint, so mix the colors together, then paint on the stripes. After letting the paint dry completely for a few minutes, you can then shape and glue the fabric into a tie shape. First, fold the tip of the fabric and glue it down. Then fold the two sides inwards, forming a point, and glue it down. With the square fabric piece, you're going to use this for the tipping part of the tie. But first, make a sort of hem to the square by folding and gluing down the edges of the square like this. Now you can place and glue the square onto the tie, making sure to leave a margin like this. Trim off any excess. Then fold the sides of the fabric inwards, overlapping slightly. Make sure the sides are even and this lower half of the tie is even. Then glue them down. Fold the top of the tie and glue it down. Now the tie should look something like this. With the rectangle piece, make clean edges again by folding and gluing down the edges like this. Then wrap it around the top portion of the tie. This will be the knot of the tie. Make sure the knot looks slightly pinched at the bottom and wide at the top. Glue it into place but leave an opening at the back. Next, put on a collared shirt, then wrap the elastic around the collar. Make sure it fits comfortable around your neck. It will stretch, so don't make it too tight or too loose. Then cut off the length you need. Sew the ends together using needle and thread. Sew it onto the back of the tie knot. Lastly, you can glue down the opening in the back. And there's your completed Hogwarts house tie. To complete my Hogwarts uniform, I wore black Chelsea boots, black tights, a grey skirt, a grey cardigan, and a white dress shirt. Then added on the house tie and house robe. So now you know how to transform an existing Hogwarts house robe into whichever house you want and make a simple tie to go with it. If you'd like to make your own DIY wand like this one, click the link in the description box down below. If you end up recreating your own robe and tie, be sure to tag me on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook because I'd love to see them. Thank you so much for watching and for all your continued support. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you liked it and comment down below which house you belong to. Till next time, bye!